So here's the plate from the last video. It's all dried out. It's still cool to the touch. It's not quite ready to go in the kiln yet. You can see it's all nice and smooth. I stamped it with my backwards stamp there. It started to bow just the slightest amount because I probably brushed it a bit much, but it lays flat with really no wobble to it at all. So now the next step we're going to do is we're going to put a nice stencil on the top of this to kind of add some surface decoration. What I did is I went online and I found this decoration here, a real simple organic swirly kind of shape online. I just typed in organic swirls, I think, and browsed through Google Images till I found this. And I think it's okay to start with this, but it's not really what I want. It's a bit thin. It's not going to cover this part of the plate here. So what I did there is I made a copy of this, and then I went over and added to it. So you can see here I've added a whole bunch of shapes. I've kind of thickened lines up so they'll be easier to cut out. And it'll fill up more of my plate, as you can see here as well. So I went ahead and made a copy of this, and I started cutting shapes out of it. And then I noticed there was some other blank spaces too, so I cut some more shapes out. So I have this, basically, is what I have. Because I noticed when I put this on here, I had a big blank space, so I cut another shape out of it and cut this shape out as well, so kind of move these around to where I want them. And I could very well at this point use this as my stencil and glaze through here, but instead I think I want to do the opposite. I think for this one I'm going to take the cutouts here and have those be my stencil. So what I'm going to do here is kind of lay these out the way I want them, and I think I'm going to have this guy here. This piece I think I brought up here into this to have that line up right inside of there. And then I have these guys, which might be missing a piece here too, I think. Oh well. This guy's going to go down here. Maybe this guy up in here. And I have one more here as well. Lose a piece in the floor. So I think this is going to be my design. Like this. Maybe this one up higher. There we go. Alright, so right in there like this. That looks pretty good. Alright, so how to get these to stick. I'm just going to take a damp sponge and kind of re-wet my plate so that it has a little bit of moisture to it. So even though I lined all those up, I'm going to go ahead and take these off now. I'm just going to go through here and just put a light layer of moisture on here, just so my paper will stick when I put it on here so it doesn't move on me too much. You kind of do this a little fast. And if it doesn't stick right away, then I think you can, oops, I'm glad I did it that way because I put it upside down. No, I didn't. I did it right. See, I'm already confused. Do it this way. So I tell you what, instead of doing that, I'm just going to come through here and dampen this down like this. This is just as easy way to do it. Get this where I want it here. And just get the paper wet so it doesn't move on you too much. Put this guy down as well. Get him right in that little spot I want there. There we go. Try to make sure everything's nice and flat. You don't want any gaps where clay can get up underneath. I think I put this guy right here. Maybe like that. Looks like a good spot as any. And then last but not least, this little dude. I'll tell you what, I'm going to put him down here. This space seems more empty. Okay, so just brief water on this, just enough to hold it down. When you start putting glaze on, it'll stick down even more. Alright, so once again, normally you would go through and glaze or bisque this completely, put it in the kiln once till this was bisque fired, and then you put glaze on. But with this Amaco underglaze series that we have here, the LUGs or the Vs, the velvet underglazes, these can go on while it's in the greenware stage. So we're going to go ahead and add this on. It doesn't come out in a shiny form. It's got a matte finish, so you'll have to add a layer of clear gloss on top of this later if you want it to be shiny. But for right now, I'm going to go ahead and lay this out, and I'm going to try to go, when I brush with kind of the grain of my piece. I wouldn't want to brush across this way because then I'll lift up these pieces here. So when I do this, I want to try to brush with the grain of my paper. So this first one, I'm just going to come in here and just try to put a nice even coat down. You want about 3 coats on this, as with most other glazes you do. 3 solid coats. I'm brushing very, very lightly with this on this first coat, and then I'll come back later and add a nice thicker coat later. Very lightly, just try to smooth everything together. You want nice, long, smooth strokes. Try not to do quick, uneven strokes. Long, smooth strokes are what you want here. This glaze is a bit thin, so I'll probably end up putting more coats on than I normally would to make sure I get a nice solid black. You can do any color you want, obviously. There's a wide variety of colors when it comes to this underglaze series. But for this one, I'm probably just going to start with the black, and then when the clay fires, the clay will fire to a white color. So it'll give me a nice contrast, I think. And then once I fire it, and it comes out once, I can go back and add some decorative elements using some other colors. I'll probably end up using some of the Amaco stroking coats in little squeeze bottles to put some decorations on as well, which we'll show in this video as well. So, coming through here, once again, barely touch the clay. I mean, if you can get one of these fan brushes, you can see how easily it slides right over this. I'm barely putting any pressure down. I don't want to lift my paper up, and I don't want to peel back anything. I just want to get nice, smooth coats. Some of this, like I can already tell in these little spots, the paper is lifted up a little bit, and I'll have to come back and scratch away some of that glaze that's gotten underneath there, which is fine. But save yourself the trouble here and try to do it right the first time just by getting a nice, smooth, even coat all around. I want to make sure I get all my edges here too, because that's going to be black as well. So I'm going to come around here and hit all the edges. Down on the ends here too. And around the side. Alright, so I've got one coat on. I'm going to let this dry a little bit, and I'll put on the consecutive coats after this. So I'll come back once I've got about 3 to 4, at least 3 on. I'll probably put on maybe 4, maybe even 5, depending on how thick it comes out. Alright. Alright, I've gone through and put my 3 coats on this plate. You can see that it's still a little wet on the paper and a little dry on the outside, which is probably what I want. I don't want the paper to dry out too much. I think it's easier to peel off when it's just a little bit wet. So I'm going to use an X-Acto blade here and very gently just come around the corners here and just try to peel up some of the spots that I had my paper down on. And try to get a corner of it and then pick it up and don't let it come back down. Otherwise, you might get some glaze in that spot. So grab a corner, pick it up, and it comes straight off. Those turned out nicely. I'm going to come around and do this guy here. See, I got a few spots where glaze went underneath. That's fine. I'm just going to wait till that dries, and I'll just use an X-Acto blade to kind of scrape away the clay there. Make sure that doesn't come off. That one. And now the big boy. I don't know where to start here. I'm going to start back here, I guess. Rip your thing, totally fine. Just try not to let it fall back down on your piece. Get some serious ones under there. Again, doesn't matter. I'm just going to scrape off the parts that I don't want. Once it dries, though, don't try to scrape it off until it's completely dried out. Here we go. So, got all my pieces off. You can see, got a nice cool little design. I'm going to let this dry out. I'm going to come back in here. You can see some of these are already starting to dry here. So like in this area here, I'll just come back and just kind of scrape away this glaze here until I reach the clay underneath. And then I'll clean this up nice and smooth. And then this can go in the kiln for its bisque fire. Alright, so once we get it out of the kiln, I'll bring it back and I'll show you how we can add some decorative elements to this with different colors, and also we'll put a nice clear gloss to finish everything up, and then we'll put it back in again. So our plate has come out of the kiln now. As you can see, after it's been fired, you get this nice matte black finish going in all the parts that we painted on. The bottom of my plate is still white. Our nice clean crisp lines from our stencil turned out pretty great. So I think to finish this plate off, what I'm going to do is add a little bit of decorative element here. I'm going to be using some of our Amaco stroking coat. I have SC60, which is silver lining. And to do some fine detail work, I went and bought some of these little squirt bottles here that I've cut the tip off here so you can get some little detail work and kind of fill these up, and it'll be a nice way to label all these. So what I think I'm going to do is just going to go around here and add some borders to the edges here of all the things we here, and add some little decorative elements as well. So I'll speed this up and you guys can watch the progress as I go along here. Okay, so I think I've added enough decoration on here. I kind of just made some interesting marks with this little tube of silver lining. So what I'm going to do is let this completely dry out, and once it's completely dry, I'm going to cover the whole top and the whole bottom with some clear transparent gloss, and that'll make it nice and shiny. I'll make sure to do the bottom as well, and when that comes out of the kiln, this plate will be finished. So I hope you enjoyed watching this demonstration. Please give it a try. If you want to post your responses on here, I'd love to see your work, and good luck!